Joining us now, the great Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio, ranking member on the Judiciary Committee. Jim Jordan, as always, thank you. You know, I just wanted to, I know you're hot on this warpath, but I want to illuminate it and make it more visible. In the Commitment to America, there's a section about accountability and corruption and so forth. You're going to head the Judiciary Committee. There's this business, what are we calling it? Resolutions of inquiry, which used to be standard fare, which Democrats have tried to cut off. And I think you're going to revive that when you take over the House. What will your first order of business be? Where do you want to start, Jim Jordan?
Well, it'll be the political nature of the Justice Department now. As an example, we'd like to get the communications between the White House, the Department of Justice, the Department of Education, and the National School Boards Association. I want those communications before the National School Boards Association sent the initial letter that talked about treating moms and dads as domestic terrorists, because we know they were communicating. So here's an example. Did the White House know that the National School Boards Association was going to reference domestic terrorism about parents in that letter? Did they encourage it to be put in? Did they know it was going to be in? Did they tell them to put it in? Those are important questions because it gets to this whole attack the weaponization of government attacking your political opponents, and this idea that Joe Biden thinks half the country are extremists and fascists, and he should weaponize the IRS, the DOJ, the Department of Homeland Security to come after his political enemies. That's frightening stuff. So that's what these are about, and where we'll go if, in fact, the American people give us the majority in 42 days. You know,
Jim, just to follow up on this, I know you've got some other items, too, I want to hear about. But regarding the school boards, which is a union, isn't the teachers' union in this mix with respect to the Justice Department and the FBI and the domestic? Isn't the teachers' union culpable for a good chunk of this? I mean, haven't we learned that, or maybe not?
Yeah, well, yeah, and certainly when it came to the whole COVID restrictions and keeping kids out of the classrooms and all this stuff going on, and the teachers' union support for teaching this CRT and this woke agenda, you bet they are. I've said, maybe I said it on your show several months ago. But the truth is, if we got a critical election coming up, if they're not for the people on the ballot, if they're not for school choice, if they're not for empowering moms and dads to pick the school where they think their son or daughter is going to get the best education, don't vote for them. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat. Don't vote for them. School choice is fundamental to who we are as a people, letting parents, the family, decide what's best for kids, not what Terry McAuliffe and the Democrats said last year in Virginia. We think government is smarter than moms and dads when it comes to the well-being and education of kids. That's baloney. Parents know it, and they should vote that way in 6 weeks.
Yeah, well, I reckon they will. Another one, Jim Jordan, the collapse of the border. And, of course, all the drug trade coming over the border and the fentanyl catastrophe scourge that's killed so many people. Can you have the capacity to hold hearings on that as well?
We sure do. I mean, the border security and immigration are part of our, in the jurisdiction of the Judiciary Committee. We will definitely do that. But, Larry, I think this election, I think it's really, I call it 4+ freedom, 4 key issues. And you talked about, your monologue was right on target. We have went from a secure border to no border. We've went from energy independence to the president begging OPEC and Iran and everyone else to increase production. We went from stable prices to a 41-year high inflation rate, and now, as you point out, a recession. And we went from safe streets to record levels of crime. Those 4 issues plus freedom, plus the attack that this government, Joe Biden and the Democrats have did to your First Amendment liberties, your Second Amendment liberties, weaponizing the government, the DOJ to come after we, the people. That's what this election boils down to. I think the country understands it. I think that's why those numbers you referenced are moving in the Republican direction, because they sense how bad they've handled the economy, how bad they've done the border, and what they're doing to our liberty, for goodness sake. That's what this election is going to come down to. And I think if that's where it's focused, we're going to win big.
You know, it's funny. It's not funny, but it's odd. If this experiment in progressivism, in big government socialism, if this thing was going to work, it would have worked. But the problem is it hasn't worked. And in, a little more than a year, Mr. Biden has taken a very strong economy and run it into the ground. I mean, it's just, Jim Jordan, Americans are very pragmatic-minded. They're practical people. They're common sense people. If something doesn't work, they get rid of it. They get rid of it because they want it to work. We have a tradition of stuff working in this country. And my point is with Biden, it hasn't worked. He's had it 2 years now almost. It hasn't worked. In fact, just the reverse, right? It's crashed. So I just see that as the biggest albatross around his neck. And that's why he may get shock and awe coming at him that he himself doesn't even see.
It not only hasn't worked, it's went from great to terrible in 20 months. I had a lady at a little town hall I was doing. She was an older lady sitting on the front row. She waited till kind of near the end of the little town hall meeting we were having. She raised her hand and she said, she looked at me and she literally, Larry, she had tears starting to form in her eyes. She said, I never thought it could get this bad this fast.
That's the thing.
And that's where Americans are. How did it go from all the great things we had under the leadership of President Trump and your economic policies working with President Trump, from that good, all the good we had there to where we are now? And I think this is building not only in America, we saw this in Italy. It's building in Italy where people are going to push back against these elites who think they're so much smarter than us regular country folk who get elected to Congress or who run a small business or who send their kids to the local school. I mean, that attitude, people have fed up with that elitist attitude, I should say. And I think they're fixing to make a change.
You know, just think about that. That's the last point. The Italians, okay, I want to underscore this. We love the Italians, but the Italians are going supply side. She wants lower taxes. Yep. The Brits are going supply side. They want family values. They want fracking. They want supply side tax cuts. And here's our guy wanting to raise taxes and regulations and kill off the fossil fuel energy business. I mean, there's a problem here. All I'm saying is, well, look, I love the Italians. It's not a real government, but I love the Italians. Maybe it becomes a real government. The stock market is telling you something also. 58% of Americans own stocks. That's a very big group to ignore. Anyway, Jim Jordan, good luck. The cavalry's coming, and you're going to lead it in. Thanks very much.